You ever feel stuck? I mean, really, truly stuck, like you're trapped by a decision you made weeks, months, or maybe even years ago. You know deep down it's not the right path for you anymore, but there's just something invisible holding you in place. Well, today we're going to explore that exact feeling, that invisible force, and figure out how to unfreeze our potential and finally break free.
How many times have we heard this one, or even said it ourselves? I gotta stick with this major because I already decided. I can't leave this job because I already decided. You know, it starts out as a commitment, something that feels like a sign of strength. But after a while, it can start to feel a lot less like a promise and a whole lot more like a prison sentence.
And that's the big mystery, isn't it? The exit is right there. The better path is practically screaming your name. But we just keep walking in the wrong direction. It feels totally illogical, but it's a superhuman thing to do. So in this explainer, we're going to unravel exactly why that happens.
Turns out this whole phenomenon actually has a name. Psychologists and behavioral economics, they call it the curse of consistency. And it's this really powerful, usually subconscious drive that pushes us to make everything we do today line up perfectly with what we've said or done in the past. Now look, this principle isn't all bad, not at all. It's actually the bedrock of trust and reliability, right? We see people who are consistent as being stable, as dependable. But when you take it too far, that very same principle becomes a self-imposed prison. It stops us from growing and locks us into being these past versions of ourselves.
So what's really going on in our heads? To understand this psychological trap, we're actually going to take a little detour, and we're headed somewhere you probably didn't expect: quantum physics. I promise, it offers this amazing analogy for why we get so frozen in place.
Okay, so get this, because this is pretty wild. In the quantum world, if you keep measuring or observing a particle that's about to change, the very act of you watching it stops the change from happening. It's like a watched pot that literally never boils. The particle gets locked or frozen in its current state. So just hold on to that idea. Observation prevents change.
So, how does some weird quantum effect have anything to do with our lives? Well, this is where it gets really, really interesting. Our public commitments, the things we say out loud, they act as a form of constant observation, and they trigger what is basically a psychological version of that quantum Zeno effect.
The parallel here is just striking. In physics, an observer freezes a particle. In our lives, when we announce a goal, I'm going to become a lawyer, we're buying this house, I'm going to finish this project no matter what, we create observers. And their constant gaze freezes our psychological state, making it incredibly hard to change course.
So who are these observers that are keeping us frozen solid? Well, for starters, it's the expectations of other people, our friends, our family, our coworkers, who heard what we said. Then, of course, there's our own pride. We don't want to look flaky, right? We don't want to look like a failure. And finally, there's our own past self-image. That person who made that decision with so much confidence. We feel this deep, deep need to stay consistent with them.
And this whole thing doesn't just happen all at once. It's usually a really gradual process. It's sometimes called the foot-in-the-door technique. It starts small. You agree to something easy. Then, to stay consistent with that first yes, you agree to something a little bit bigger. And before you even know it, the weight of all those little observed commitments has locked you into something huge that you might not even want anymore.
Okay, so we're frozen by observation. How in the world do we thaw out? How do we get back our freedom to evolve? Well, the solution, inspired by our little quantum analogy, is something we can call the quantum nudge.
Think about it. If constant observation is the thing that freezes you, then the only way to unfreeze yourself is to remove the observers. Simple as that. You have to create a space where you are totally unobserved, where you can explore new ideas without all that pressure to be consistent with who you used to be.
So here's how you do it. Let's call it a secret trial. First, you got to block the observers. If you have a new idea, a new career path, a new hobby, maybe you want to move, just don't announce it. Keep it to yourself. Next, try it out in private. Take an online class, do some research, volunteer for a weekend. Just experiment without the weight of anyone's expectations. This is what allows your wave function, your state of potential, to become fluid again. You finally give yourself permission to actually change.
This whole idea really invites us to take on a new, much more dynamic way of thinking about who we are. It's all about shifting our self-concept from something that's rigid and fixed to something that's fluid and adaptable.
So often we're taught to see changing our minds as a weakness, as being inconsistent. But what if we just reframed that? What if changing your mind isn't a failure at all, but a successful quantum leap to a new, better state of being? It's not inconsistency, it's evolution, it's growth.
And ultimately, that's the big takeaway here. Consistency is useful, sure, but it should never be a cage that freezes your soul. You are not a static block of ice, defined forever by some decision you made in the past. You are a flowing wave of potential, and you are capable of changing course and creating a whole new reality in every single moment.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In what parts of your life are you frozen? Where are you letting the ghost of a past decision run your present? Just remember, you don't have to. You have the right to make a new observation right now and begin to change.